Hi, and welcome to today's edition of Cracking the Cryptic, where we're going to look at a Sandwich Sudoku. And Sandwich Sudoku is an exciting puzzle for the channel actually, because we had a couple of videos on Sandwich Sudokus that garnered a huge number of hits, sort of well over 500,000 views, and they certainly helped to grow our subscriber numbers. So we're a big fan of this type of Sudoku. You can see there's only one given in the grid here. This is a puzzle that Tom Collyer designed for last weekend's UK Sudoku Championship. Now, Mark competed in the championship. I don't know how he got on. The results aren't out yet. I didn't, so I've not tried the puzzle. But Mark tells me that this puzzle was the most difficult in the test in terms of the points allocation. So I think, the idea was this puzzle, if you were aiming to solve the test in the time given, you'd have to get this puzzle done in about 10 minutes or so. So I'm not going to try and do it that quickly here because I want to talk about it as I go, but that's the sort of time you should be aiming for if you want to be competitive. Now, you can have a go at the puzzle yourselves using our software. Just click on the link under the video and it'll take you here, and you can use exactly the same interface that I'm using. A couple of other things to mention. Let's just remind ourselves of the rules of Sandwich Sudoku. So these numbers outside the grid are saying that if we find the numbers from 1 to 9, for example, in column 1 here, say there was a 9 here, that would mean that these 5 cells between the 1 and the 9 have to sum to 29. So the sum of the cells sandwiched between the 1 and the 9 would sum to 29. Very interesting constraint. It makes this puzzle just fascinating, and Mark and I in fact have been working with an app developer, and there's going to be an app coming out in the next few weeks which feature some of our puzzles, Sandwich Sudokus that we've created. So we'll let you know more about that in due course, but let's talk about how to solve this. Now, the most important technique with Sandwich Sudoku is, believe it or not, to mark the cells that cannot contain the numbers 1 to 9. Not the numbers that can, the numbers that can't. Now obviously in row 1 here, we should start here. So let's just look at this. This is the biggest number you can get in a Sandwich Sudoku, 35, because the numbers 1 and 9 themselves add up to 10, and we know that if you add up all of the numbers from 1 to 9, you get 45. So in fact, 35 means this must be the 9. In row 1, and therefore obviously these 7 cells in between will add to 35. We can do something with column 9. I can see that straight away. This is such a big number. So 33 plus 1 plus 9 is 43. So there must be just one cell outside of the 1 and 9, and it must sum up to 2. So in fact we can immediately write these two numbers in as well. Now I see. So Tom is a very, very good composer of puzzles, and his puzzles will always have a logical flow to them. So we should very much be on the lookout for that. And look what he's done here in row 8. So the sum of the numbers between the 1 and the 9 is 5. Now that gives two alternatives. Either we could have this arrangement. That would be possible with just the 5 occupying a single cell. Or we could have 2 cells that sum to 5. Now, because we're always using the 1 as in the 1 and the 9 sum, if you like, the only way that you can make 5 with 2 cells is with the numbers 2 and 3. But you can see here we've already just placed a 2 here, so there's just no way we could have a 3 and a 2 and a 9 there, for example. We're always going to give ourselves a problem in box 9. So, in fact, this 5 must be a single cell, and we can do this. Now it's at this point I'm going to start highlighting. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to use, when I highlight a cell in grey, I'm going to be saying that cell cannot be a 1 or a 9, and we'll see hopefully why this technique is very important. So we can immediately grey out all of these cells. If we look at the 29 total in column 1, 29 plus 10 is 39. So we know that we must have at least one cell outside of the numbers from 1 to 9, because we need to have a total of 6 outside the total from 1 to 9. Now, but because this cell cannot be a 1 or a 9, obviously if we put the 9 in this square here, that would imply these 7 cells add to 35, which is not right. So this cannot be a 9. This must be a 9. And we've just got enough room here for these 2 cells to add up to the 6 that we need. Without using a 1, this must be 2 and 4. And look, there's a 2 here. So in fact, we can go 2 and 4 straight away like that. And we'll carry on highlighting. So let's highlight some more cells in grey. 13 in 2 cells, that must, well, it must be at least 2 cells. It could be more than 2 cells, it could be 3 cells as well. What it can't be is 4 cells. So we can't have a 1 in this square, because that would then, we'd have to have 4 cells between the 1 and the 9, and the minimum we could make would be 14, with 2, 3, 4 and 5. So that's not going to work. So this cell must be greyed out. Let's just see if we can see anything else quick here. Oh yes, we can. Look, there's a 28 total in column 6. So 28, add the 10, 38. That means that the cells outside the numbers 1 and 9 have got to sum up to 7. Now, because we can't use a 1, the maximum number of cells that can be outside 1 and the 9, therefore, is 2. And therefore, we can grey in these 3 cells. It would be impossible for any of these to be a 1 or a 9. And ask yourself, can this ever not be a 1 or a 9? Well, clearly not. This must be a 1 or a 9 to give ourselves the room we need to leave the outside squares adding up to 7. So this square here must be a 1 or a 9. And look, we have a 16 total in row 9 now. Now we know 16 must be 3 cells long, because we can't use the 9 here. So the maximum we can get with 2 cells would be an 8 and a 7. That adds up to 15, not 16. So we need 3 cells. 1, 2, 3. So the only way this works is if this is the 1 or the 9. So we can actually go 1. You know, this is a 1 because there's already a 9 in the box. This is a 9. And we can, let's grey in the areas in between. This 1 is nice now, it interacts with the 25. A little tip that I'll give you is the central cell in a row or column whose number exceeds 21 can never be a 1 or a 9. And that's because, if you think about it, let's use this. If this was a 1 or a 9 and this was 22, for example, we'd need at least 3 cells. Well, we need 4 cells to be precise, because 8, 7 and 6 add up to 21. So you can never get enough cells if you use the middle cell. So we can grey out this cell here. This is obviously greyed out as well. 4 cells can get as high as 25 if we think about it. 8, 7, 6 and 5 I think add up to 26. So it's possible that this is a 1 or a 9, or a 9 I suppose. Let's pencil mark 1s into one of those 2 squares. Pencil mark 1s into one of these 2 squares. Now look at this 9 here in column 7 with a 5 above it. So we know that this can't be a 5. So this 5 sum must be 2 cells, and it must be 2 and 3. And we already have a 2 in this box. So this must go 3, 2, 1, like that. Touch of Ted Rogers. And pencil mark 1s into these 2 squares. This can't be a 9, obviously, because there's got to be at least 1 space in order to get to 7, and there can't be 3 spaces. So this cell can also be greyed out. And look at the arrangement now in this 3 by 3 block. It's clearly not possible that both these squares are 1 and 9, because then we can't have 10 in the cells between them. So this square must be a 1 or a 9. And we know we need 16 in the column between the 1 and the 9. We've already talked about 16 being at least 3 cells. So in fact, now we know this is the 9 and this is a 1. Let's come back here and keep highlighting. So now you can see this square here is the only open cell in row 6 for a 1 or a 9. And this is the power of marking somehow the cells that cannot take the 1 and the 9. Exactly the same trick here. Look, I've grayed in everything apart from this square, so this must be the 9. It's the only possibility. Let's grey in those. This is 18. We know that's 3 digits, and in fact there's now only 1 space left in row 2 here that can be the 1. It's going to have to be this one. Now this can't be a 1, so that's going to be the 1 there. We know this square must be grey, this square must be grey, and we need to put a 9 still into row 3, so it's going to have to go here. It can't go here because that would imply we'd need a 0 total. I'll press the 1 button there. So that's a 9, that's an 8. Now we need at least 2 cells to make 11. So again, let's do it longhand. Those two cannot be 1. Therefore, the only place left for a 1 is there. This becomes grey. And you can see we've got a 0 total in column 5, and therefore it's simply a matter of filling in the 1 and the 9. And that is always the first stage of Sandwich Sudoku. Try and place all of the numbers from 1 to 9, and then it's like there's a second step in the solving where it becomes sort of more of a straightforward Sudoku with a touch of maths. So where would I look first here? I've spotted something. 9 here in 3 cells. So let's have a think about how we do that. How do you make 9 in 3 cells if you can't use a 1? Well, the only way is with the numbers 2, 3 and 4. So we can immediately write 2, 3 and 4 like that. In fact, what I'm tempted to do, therefore, because we've already got a 5 in the column, is to put the 6, 7, 8 in as well. So there's nothing we can do with 33. We've used that, we've used that, we've used that. This is interesting. Look, 28, because these 2 cells must sum up to 7, because 45 minus 28 minus 1 minus 9 gives 7. So we can't use 1, 6. There's already a 1 in the column. So this is either 2, 5 or 3, 4. Shall I notate that? Why not? 2, 5, 2, 5, 3, 4, 3, 4. Maybe it'll be helpful. The 0, can't do anything with that. There are 2 ways of making 11 without using a 1. So 2, 4 and 5 and 2, 3 and 6. And you can see we can't actually disambiguate the options there. Or if we can, I'm not seeing immediately how to do it. 16 doesn't seem very hopeful. 25, these 3 cells add up to 10. Now that is interesting. How do we make 10 without using a 1 in 3 cells? Well, the only way is 2, 3 and 5. So we do get a restriction there. And we've used the 29 already. We've used the 35 already. 18 here. Here, what I'd be focusing on is the outside squares. So if these 4 squares between the 1 and 9 add to 18, I know the 3 squares outside must sum up to 17, because 18 plus 10 is 28, 45 minus 28 is 17. So you can see, can this be a 2, for example? If it's a 2, we need 7 and an 8 in the outies. It can be. Alright, so 18 isn't where we go next. We've used the 8 already. 10 here. Yes, maybe we can do something. Sorry, I'm just staring at this for a second. I'm wondering about this 2 and the fact that we've got 2's in one of these squares and 2's in these squares. So that means that there's 2 in one of those squares. Now actually, look, neither of these squares can be a 2. So this must be a 2. This can't be a 2 now. And if we look, we've got a 2 here and a 2 here. So there's a 2 in one of these 2 squares. I'm not seeing quite how to resolve that. Bar humbug. 7 here though, that's nice. That means this is a 7. It's just a straightforward. Put it in the grid. Always like those. Okay, let's carry on. 13, 5, 6. Oh, this 16 is probably a bit forced because we've got 1 and a 9 here, so 26. The 4 outside squares have to sum to 19, and we've already got a 2 and a 4 in, so these two squares have got to sum up to 13 without using a 5. So this is a 6, 7 combination, like that. And that means we need 3, 5, and 8. And the other squares in the row, let's put that in. And the fact this must be an 8 now, because it can't be a 6 or a 7, and this must be a 4. And this is not an 8. Just to try, what I'm trying to do here is look at some straightforward Sudoku, see if I can see anything quick in order to make progress. The 13's sum here, now in row 7, suddenly becomes useful because this 8 rules out 5, 8, so this has got to be 6 and 7. Let's put that in. Therefore this, these two squares must be 2 and a 5, I think. And that is important, believe it or not, because now you might remember we were looking up here and we said this is either 2, 5 or 3, 4. Well, if it's 2, 5 now, this square cannot be filled. So it's not 2, 5, it must be 3, 4. Now, can we use that somehow? So 2, 5, 6 and 7 into the rest of this box. No, I'm not seeing how to use that immediately. 3, 4, 5. Well, I guess we get to place 5, don't we? Because this 3, 5, 8 now must be 3, 8. This must be the 5 in row 9. And we must have 6, 7, 9. Not 6, 7, 9. 4, 6, 7 along here. Let's put that in. 4, 6, 7, 4, 6, 7, 4, 6, 7. And 3, 8 into these two squares. Now this is useful because we have a 3 already in column 2. So that's going to give us more digits. 3 and 8 like that. 4, 6, 7 to complete the column. So oops, I need to do that. 4, 6 here, 4, 6, 7 there. And okay. So again, what we need to do now, I think, is go back to some of the row totals we haven't used, although I can just see that's going to be 8 and 3 in that order, so let's put that in. It must now be an 8 in either this square or this square. 2, 4, 6, 7. Really what we need is some way of highlighting the squares on the side we've already used. Let's have a look here though. So again, we've got outies here summing to 18 in 3 squares. So if this is a 4, we would have to have 6 and 8 in the outies, which is possible. It would have to be 4, 8, 6, like that. I can't see why that's ruled out though. That's frustrating. This can't be a 7. Let's remove it. And it can't be a 4, in fact. That was just a given had I actually concentrated on it. 6 here. So these 3 cells are 2, 5 and 8. So this is 5 or 8, and this is 2, 5 or 8. Right, let's go through it again. So we've used, haven't used this, which we said was either 2, 3, 6 or 2, 4, 5. Now, is there a way of telling? Maybe, but I'm not still not seeing it. There's yes, well, there's a 3 in there, isn't there? Because the 3 can't be here because of the 3's. So there is a 3 in this sum, so it is in fact 236. Right, that should, I think, help a lot. 236. And now this is not a 2, this is a 5-8 pair, which means this is a 2, this is a 5. There must be a 5 in one of those two squares. We're looking for 4 and 7 as well, which unfortunately we can't resolve. So 4, 5, 7, 4, 5, 7. 2, 3, 6 here. This should be a 4. 4, 7 in this order. 5, 7 here. And we must need 2 and 6 to complete this box. And the column, I guess. Right. So we've now used this one, and we should, I think, now be able to use the 16 total in column 3, because we know it contains a 2, look. And therefore the other two numbers must be 6 and 8. So this square here can't be an 8, can't be a 2, this square is a 6. And we get a 2-8 pair here. Now that's interesting regarding this 10, because now this must be a 2 or an 8. And it can only be a 2 based off the fact that we found this 2, 3, 6 triple. So therefore that, whoops, that's a 2, that's an 8, that's a 2. Now we get to resolve the 6 and the 7, look down here. This must be a 4 at the top. Resolves the 4 and the 3. Making slightly quicker progress. 2, 3, 5 here, so this must be 7 and 8, which is now resolvable. That must be 8, 7 in that order. This is now an 8 by straightforward Sudoku. And I think we've used all of the column sort of arithmetic information now. So we can place a 4 here and a 7 here. That's nice because that does impact the side of the right-hand side of the grid, and that impacts back into the 3 and 6. Look, so we're still looking for 5 and 8 in row number 5, which now resolves this way. This must be 3 and 6, I think, which is also resolvable. It's funny how the puzzle has really started to yield up. 5, 6, 7 now. So this is a 5. 6, 7 pair into those two squares. This should be a 5 as well. 5 and 8. Now, have we used all the row information? We haven't done this 18, I don't think. Yeah, this is a nice place to look. I'm going to look at the outies because there's just less of them. There's only 3 outies and there's 4 innies. So we know that the 28, we're looking for 17, and now we've got an 8 here. So this square and this square have got to sum up to 9. Now what's possible? 2, 7 is possible. 3, 6 is also possible by the looks of it, and 5, 4 is not possible. So this is not a 5. And look, there's a 6, 7 pair now in column 9, which implies this is a 3. Maybe we could have got that another way, but that's going to help. 5, 2, and 3 like that. Now, as we know, this cell and this cell add up to 9. That means this is a 6, this is a 7, that's a 7, 6, 7, and 6 like that. 4 and 5 into these two squares is now resolvable. 5 and 7 like that. And hopefully 6 and 2 completes the puzzle. Let's check. It all looks good. So, as usual from Tom Collyer, fabulous puzzle. Worked through it fairly steadily today. No fireworks, but I hope you enjoyed it. Do let us know in the comments if you want to see more Sandwich Sudoku. And as I say, keep a lookout for our app, which will be coming out in the next few weeks. Thanks for watching. Back soon with another edition of Cracking the Cryptic.